Go. Oh my gosh. Yes. All right, we're ready. I know we came on testing again, but it's all right. Happy Greater Day, everybody. Yay! We made it. We made it. All right, so listen, everybody, welcome back to 30 Minutes of Fun, Inspiration, and Insight. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are into episode 8, I believe. 8 weeks, man, and we're pushing forward. I've got my co-host sitting right here. What's your name, man?
Rochester J.
I love it. I just love the way you own your name, man. You own it like your mama and your daddy gave it to you.
So do you.
Love it. All right, so listen. This train is going to move tonight. It's going to move fast. So normally we get into Rochester J's segment at about 8:35, but we're going in early because we got some good stuff.
Yes, we
Rochester has a special guest, and then we got some other guests. So some of y'all saw the promo earlier today. So we've got some special guests lined up. Yeah. And just so you know, we're going to starting off our shows with Greater Works. We want to feature somebody that's just doing some good stuff in the community.
Yeah.
And so Rochester has brought in somebody special, and he's actually going to merge Greater Works into his Something Good segment. Yeah. And so Patrick is going to drop it off like we always do. Come on, Shaka.
Tell me something good.
Hey! What's the rest of it? Tell me that you love me. Yeah. All right, so Rochester J, tell us something good, and then tell us who you got in the studio with you.
Yes, indeed, I will. Dr. Davina Jones, once again, as always, thank you for the opportunity to share this air with you. And to Pastor Al Gallen and Ebony Cruz and Patrick and the entire crew of the AGM Radio Network. Too many to name, too many to claim. Appreciate each and every one of you. I'm excited to have with us, with all of us, not just the Archbishop, and we're going to get to him later.
Yes.
Awesome man of God there.
It's all right.
Yes, indeed, man. So much history there. But to have with us also someone who I was introduced to by a mutual friend by the name of Romaine Edwards back in 2008. Wow, it's been a while, right? Yeah. We had started a venture in childcare. And little did I know that when he introduced me to this giant, oh man, when I tell you she's a giant in the industry of childcare, I didn't know that our relationship would be one that I would eventually be calling her mom and
That's all right.
mentor.
I love it.
Friend and all of that all wrapped up in one. And she's helped me in so many different areas of life, and just been grateful to just, not only have that relationship in 2008, but here we go, fast forward 2015, where another venture of my life is beginning in the radio land, if you will.
Yes.
And wow, what a great opportunity it is to introduce you to our audience, Mrs. Becky Burgue, y'all.
Thank you.
Awesome giant in the Hillsborough County School District. You know what? I don't want to steal the opportunity that we have in time. Mrs. Burgue, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and the platform that you've walked on for the amount of years you've walked on in the School District of Hillsborough County. And not only that, but in your personal ministry. Help us to understand who this giant is, Mrs. Becky Burgue. Welcome.
Well, what an opportunity. Thank you so much, Rochester, for having me. And
Absolutely.
Dr. D, I'm so privileged to be here. But first of all, I'd just like to say my main identity is I'm a daughter of the King.
There you go.
I like to say that first.
Absolutely.
And I was certainly called to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I was a teacher in Hillsborough County for 36 years.
Wow.
And now I consider myself a repurposed teacher. So I'm still involved in lots of ways.
Yeah.
I mentor children at Just Elementary.
Wow.
We've adopted the entire school, and we do a lot of work at Just Elementary. And I train the host workers, the people who are doing the after-school care in Hillsborough County. I do the child care training for those. So I keep my hand in the pot, so to speak, so I know what's going on with children, because I love children, and I believe that we are all called to take care of the children of our area. And so it's very important to me that the people who are caring for our children are trained properly.
Sure.
So I'm very blessed to be that. I've taught every age and stage, from gifted to developmentally delayed, and from pre-K to adult. And here's what I've learned. We're all much more alike than we are different. We all want exactly the same things. We all need to be noticed and recognized and heard. heard. And here we are on the radio, and we want to be heard, but we want you all who are out there listening to be heard as well.
Right.
So I think it's so important that we recognize our children and that we grow them up to be leaders in our community. Everybody's called to do a greater work. Yeah. And the best days are ahead of us. And so I really think that we all need to be looking for our purpose and deciding what that is. So in addition to training and teaching and doing all those things that I still do, mentoring children, I also teach and mentor women. Yeah. And I think that women for sure need to find what their purpose is in the kingdom.
Yes.
So I have a group that I work with called Stonecroft Ministries. And the third Tuesday of every month, we have an outreach meeting at Tampa Palms Golf and Country Club, which everyone is welcome to come to. It is a non-denominational group of women, the only evangelical ministry to women that I know of internationally. Wow. 75-year-old ministry, and we're reaching lots and lots of women all over the world. Yeah. And so it's a wonderful opportunity. We have great Bible studies that are going on as well, and I love to teach the Word. And so but like I said, I was called to be a teacher, and it is an amazing opportunity when you get to share what you know and how your life has been transformed with other people.
What motivated you for this? We've got about a minute or two before we shift gears. What motivated you to your greater works?
Well, like I said, I knew I was called to be a teacher from the time I was a young child. I followed in my sister's footsteps, but I have gone way further than that, realizing that teaching is a calling. And so as I do it, I'm blessed, and I've realized that the ones I have taught are teaching others. So that's what keeps you going, is when you see that you're putting something in and you're getting lots more back than you ever thought, more than you could ever ask or imagine.
What about your work with women? Like what inspired you to work? I know it may sound like a no-brainer question, but I mean, hey, I'm a woman, but it doesn't mean I have a women's group. So
that's right.
What led you to that?
Well, and I think it's women asking questions and me realizing that I had the answers for them and that I could lead them to the right answers. And so I think that's it, when you realize that people are seeking something and you have what they're seeking. And the Lord, you pray for the Holy Spirit to guide you and direct you into the ministry that you want to be involved in. Now I love speaking, so I'm going out to groups. So if there's groups out there that need speakers or retreat leaders, I have women that can do that. So I'm leading other. Wow. You make other leaders. If you're a leader, you birth other leaders. That's the goal. You don't do it all yourself. You grow other leaders in the process.
Listen, we've got about 30 seconds before. I know, right? We've got about 30 seconds before we go to break, and we're going to be doing this every show. We're going to take the first few minutes to, really demonstrate what people are doing in the community. So give us just one good nugget that you want to give to people about their purpose or something of that sort. Just one good nugget before we go to commercial.
I just want everybody to get out of bed every morning and say, "Here I am, Lord, use me." And that's the goal. I want to be used by Him, and at the end of the day, I want to be able to say how I was used, whose life I made a difference in today.
We'll take it. We'll take it. All right. So listen, coming up
Becky
every
Burgue,
week, we're gonna give 2 minutes to folks that are doing good nonprofit work. 2 minutes we're gonna give to folks out there in the community. Right now, we're getting ready to go to break. Don't go anywhere. This is your time to get 3 carrots and how many cookies? 2 cookies. That's it. We'll see you back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. We got some good commercials here for you. Listen up.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
To the local Tampa Bay area listeners, this is Dr. D, your host of the Greater Day Cafe. Looking for a positive outlet for your youth this summer? Register your preteens ages 11 to 13 right now for the Great Camp on July 11th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Seating is limited, So go to www.davinajones.com for details and register today. Let your child be greater too.
Hey everybody, this is David Mann on the Greater Day Cafe.
Welcome back to the Greater Day Cafe right here on the AGM Radio Network. Now here's your host, Dr. D.
We're back. I hope you went and got your carrots and your cookies. I know you heard a little bit of crossness right there as we were coming in, but hey, it's still a greater day. So you guys know how technology is. Technology is great, but man, does it come with its little bloopers. So thank you all for staying with us, and we really appreciate it. So now listen, you got a chance to hear a little something good about Greater Works, things that are doing. As we said before, stay connected with us because we want to bring people on for 2 minutes at the top of the hour, free of charge for the nonprofit work you do. Now, as we go into the next segment, which is the cafe segment, I actually did a pre-recorded phone call early before the show. Those of you that were tuned in with us last week, you know, we dedicated some time to talking about the power of love versus the power of fear. And so if you didn't catch that broadcast, go to the YouTube, go to the website, you can pull that up. But I really wanted to continue that a little bit differently today, but still dealing with what you see going on because it has really spurred a national conversation about race, about religion, about faith, the Confederate flag, and all of that. So I had a chance to interview a good friend of mine that I just met a little while ago at a town hall meeting. And his name is Dr. Russell Meyer. And I'm so thankful because even though he couldn't be here physically, he agreed to do a call in. And so we talked. We actually talked for probably a good almost 15 minutes. It didn't seem like that. So I had to cut the interview. I'm going to bring you into this interview midway because I think that's when he gets into the meat of what I really want you to hear about tonight. And I will set it up by telling you that I really wanted to interview him because I have been in the faith community I was born into the faith community, to put it that way. My great-grandfather was a pastor. My father, who you're going to hear from later, is a pastor. And I will tell you that as I have served in the faith community, there's one thing that I've realized in the past 10-plus years, and that is when it comes to matters of race and social injustice, white American pastors, probably particularly in my experience, evangelical pastors, Dr. Meyer says perhaps a little bit more in the South than the North, tend to be very silent. And when it comes to matters of other, issues that they feel very passionately about, whether that's abortion or what have you, they speak very loudly. When it comes to race and social injustice, they're very quiet. They're very mute. So I created a challenge of that at the town hall meeting, and Dr. Meyer stood up and said, "Wait a minute, sister, I'll go to lunch with you because I'm a white pastor, but I believe in the right thing." And so I want to bring you into this interview with Dr. Meyer. He's the director of the Florida Council of Churches right here in Florida, and he's going to give you a little bit of inconvenient truth. Let me ask you this. You said something in our phone conversation earlier that I thought was a part of the very inconvenient truth that sometimes maybe more so, the group of either white Americans or white evangelicals really do not face. And that inconvenient truth, and I love the way you passionately shared it earlier on the phone, is that, racism is baked in the DNA of our Constitution.
It's not only baked into our DNA, our Constitution, but it's baked into every white person, and in many ways it's baked in even to people of color. Mm-hmm. And so that's why this church and this family was able to forgive this young man, because just as Jesus said on the cross, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they do," they have a depth of understanding in that church that this man, this young man, was possessed by a hate that is not natural. Mm-hmm. It was a hate that somebody taught him.
Yes.
And that he has been miseducated, and misinformed, and to hold him responsible for his education in that sense. See, that there were outside forces there, and there's an understanding of that. We all can have this kind of hate wiped out of us. But, you walk down the street and you have a native sort of gut reaction to seeing a stranger in front of you based upon the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. And that sort of natural reflex. Oftentimes among white people, but I've listened to others say it may not only be among white people. If they see a certain kind of dark-skinned person walk, they'll suddenly tense up. They'll wonder. That tensing up is not natural. That's an acquired kind of reflex.
Yeah.
That's why I say when racism is baked in, it's because from very early on, we are taught that we are to fear certain things and we're to feel safe about other things. That Bible study led by Reverend Pickney did not have any fear of a young white man walking into their midst.
Right.
Just
You're right.
simply didn't have it there. But imagine that it's a white church having a little Bible study like that.
You're right.
And some young black man walks in with dreads and everything else on. I'm not saying they wouldn't be welcome, but I'm here to tell you that if we put EKGs and EEGs flipping on folks, we would see that their hearts would be a little racing.
Yeah.
Their palms would be a little, there'd be wonder. Their bodies would have the natural fear mechanisms running through them.
That's right.
That's not natural. That is taught.
That's taught.
Acquired.
Yes. Dr. Meyer, I thank you for that right there, that brief moment right there of inconvenient truth, because until we, both black and white, are willing to visit that inconvenient truth, we can't get to the answer. And then I've got about 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and I want you to talk about that answer, because you mentioned on the phone today that in spite of what we see, there is a movement that's coming out of Charleston. There is a movement, and I know you mentioned there are things that you know from behind the scenes that you can't tell us all. You've got some privileged information, but you have said that there is a movement, a mighty movement of love, a mighty movement that's coming out of Charleston that's going to shake this country. Expound on that for about 60 seconds, and then we're going to have to wrap up.
Well, the love that's coming out of Charleston is a genuine offer of forgiveness. Now, when I say love, I'm not interested in a sentiment, and I'm not talking about that. Love in the Bible is a set of practices that intend to mean well for the other, whether you know them or they're a stranger that just come into your midst. So love is a set of practices, and we see this set of practices already being laid out. And right now, if you go into any court where there's a capital crime and the victims are asked, the family of the victims are asked for their opinion, you'll hear vengeance. Oftentimes, you'll hear revenge. You'll say, I can't get any closure on this until it's put to rest, and then we use the death penalty against people. We execute you. What you're going to starting to see, just as an example, is folks in Charleston saying, we don't want death. It's already being said. We don't want this young man killed.
Wow.
Don't kill him in our name. Don't use the state of South Carolina to kill him in our name, because we believe he can be redeemed.
Wow. That's amazing.
We believe he can be redeemed.
Wow.
We believe that if you put him in prison for the rest of his life, his redemption, he might be the best chaplain in the state prison in South Carolina that God has sent into that midst in 50 years. Don't kill this boy. There's redemption coming. And you see, when that message starts getting out, this is just one example. It's going to come in many, many ways.
Sure.
Just one. Imagine what would happen if 20 or 30 states stopped the death penalty.
Right. Yeah. Well, Dr. Meyer, I'm telling you, I know that our time is limited, but again, you have shared some inconvenient truth. You've also really encouraged the message of love and forgiveness, as inconvenient as that might be. But it sounds like you have the same heart, which is that in the midst of darkness, I still believe in greater. And it sounds like you do too. I've got one last question and then count to 10, and we've got to close out the interview. Do you think those Confederate flags around the South need to come down?
There's no doubt in my mind that we need to understand they are a symbol of hate. They came out of one kind of human enslaving another kind of human. That's the biblical definition of hate. We just need to understand that.
Dr. Meyer.
And so they have to come down.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your service. I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll speak. Thank you for joining A Greater Day. We'll appreciate it. In the midst of darkness, I still believe in greater.
Bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was my interview with Dr. Meyer, Dr. Russell Meyer, earlier today. I'm not saying that everybody agrees with him. What I am saying is that in the midst of darkness, I still believe in greater. And in order to be greater, sometimes we have to face some inconvenient truths about what we've been taught, what symbols represent. And at the same time, even though you might not feel like forgiving, I'm telling you, there is a blessing in forgiving. I think Dr. Maya Angelou used to say that forgiveness for her means to give for the next generation, give for those that are coming behind you. That is what's going to help us be all that I know we can continue to be as a community, as a people, as a nation. Hey, I still believe in greater. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got my mentor, my chief mentor in the building with me, my daddy. Some people call him Archbishop. I call him Daddy. Daddy Bishop, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good.
Listen, I wanted you to come, Daddy Bishop, right behind Dr. Meyer with me because, you know, there are a number of individuals that like to respond to these situations with the same kind of hatred that was given. And you've talked so much about transitioning or transcending, how to transcend in the spirit of love. It is a choice to transcend. It is a choice to face what you don't want to face as a truth. The truth is racism exists. The truth is all types of injustices exist. The truth is, however, that we've got something greater on the inside of us than what we see. How do we tap into that greater, Bishop?
I'm reminded of something Jesus said, "By this shall all men know that you're my disciples. By this shall all men know that you're disciples of love, that you have love one to another." When I say I love you, I am saying that I will never intentionally deceive you, hurt you, or harm you in any way, but I always see to those things in your best interest. Love is the way you transcend evil. Love is the way you transcend all the negative energy that's around us. The little young man in Charleston, is obviously he was embraced in a lot of negative thoughts and negative conversations. Mm-hmm. I used to say a long time ago, if you're going to walk in love, you must also practice not being offended. Mm-hmm. Offenses will come. Mm-hmm. But when you seek to walk in the higher place of love, it's easy to forgive, to let go, to move on and move beyond. Mm-hmm. So to me, to transcend evil is to learning to walk in that highest place. And the highest place of life is always the place of love. Mm-hmm. Love forgives. Love always seeks to do that which is good for you and the other person. I was listening to Dr. Myers, and I agree. No one wants to see anybody die. That's not it. Jesus taught us to forgive, to love, and to share that love, to pass that, play that love forward. So who knows why this thing happened, but that young man can be salvaged. We can all be salvaged,
Right.
With a little love in the house, Yeah. Most of the wars and the things that are taking place in our country, outside of our country, is all based on fear, a lack of love for oneself. Mm-hmm. You see, we talk about love of God, mm-hmm. but you can't love God until you really love yourself. You see what I'm saying now? Mm-hmm. When you learn to love yourself, you don't have a problem loving other people mm-hmm. and forgiving other people. You don't have a problem letting go of the past mm-hmm. when you learn to love yourself. The reason why people can't let go and transcend evil, number one, we don't love ourselves. We're not taught that. One of the reasons that a lot of prisoners are turning to other religious groups is because they're teaching those young men to love yourself, to love self, to love who you are, to declare your I amness. I was listening to our dear doctor here earlier in the broadcast talking about children education. I believe that every child born is born a genius. But how do we resurrect that genius in that child? By teaching that child to confess his own I amness.
Yes.
I am great. I am loved. Yes. I am what I say I am.
Yes.
And if you can teach a child to embrace his own I amness, we'll eradicate the hatred. We'll get past all the fear-based things that are taking place in our society. Yes. So you know, love is the answer. But how do we get there? We get there by teaching folks, as Paul said in Romans 12, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. What does that mean? How do we program your mind?
Reprogram your mind.
Reprogram your mind. You reprogram your mind by creating what I call prayer affirmations. Because if I say I am great, I am loved, I am awesome, I am powerful, if you say it enough, the law of redundance is a very powerful law. If you say it enough, you become exactly what you say you are. It's a principle. And sometimes good, loving parents all around us and friends, they mean well. But sometimes they say things to us, negative things. You'll never make it. You'll never get there. You'll never achieve to anything. Well, take that principle works both ways. If you reverse that and begin to tell that child, you're great, you're awesome, you're successful, you're powerful, you're a powerful human being, and that child will begin to walk that out. You can call it a self-fulfilling prophecy that works both ways. He can walk out the negative things you say, or he can walk out the positive things you say. So we have the power within us to change our world, but it's going to take work. It's going to take those that are willing to activate this thing and to be not just a talker, but to be a doer.
Woo! As my business consultant, Jamar likes to say, boom.
Boom.
There it is. Oh, my God. I am great.
I am.
I am.
Hey.
The power of affirming the I am. I know we got 3 minutes, 2 minutes before we close out, but here is something for you, because I always say it's 30 minutes of fun, inspirational insight. Right. This takes me back to the movie The Help. You know, in the movie when the maid played by Viola Daniels teaches the little girl, I is kind. You is kind. You is beautiful. You is smart. Come on, everybody in the studio. You is kind. You is beautiful. You is smart. One more time. You is kind, you is beautiful, and you is smart. I know the subject and verbs don't agree, but you know what we're saying. You need to get it in your spirit. Right? You get subject and verb when you go back to school on Monday. What you need to get that lesson is to know that you're kind, you're beautiful, and you're smart. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bringing our 30 minutes of fun, inspirational insight to a close. I hope you have been inspired. Now listen, you heard the commercial earlier. We've got the Great Camp. Speaking of you is kind, beautiful, and smart, we've got the Great Camp. It's a one-day camp. Saturday, July 11th, registration has already begun. This camp is going to kick off the courtesy of Mr. Barry Cohen of the Cohen Law Group here in Tampa, Florida. So we are thankful for it. Yes. So we're going to be able to offer this camp almost free of charge, a minimal fee just for the cost of incidentals and food. Other than that, he has taken care of the overhead. So make sure you go to www.davinajones.com to register for the Great Day Camp, and also stay connected with us. We got to roll out of here, but I got to tell you, in the midst of darkness, I still believe in greater. Happy Greater Day, everybody. We'll see you here, same time, same location, next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. sharp. See ya!
See ya!
Hey everybody, this is David Man on the Greater Day Cafe Radio Show with Dr. D and Rochester J. I think